Hey everyone, Digital Sticks here, and today I'm coming to you from the Four Seasons to talk about a different perspective for this VR technology that I've been talking about. Um, and I know, there's fanboys out there, there's people who just genuinely like their devices and they disagree with opinions, and so it still is difficult to get the proper perspective out there to be confident that people can make the decision on what's the best device for them. And again, the reason I bring up the fanboyism is, I mean, there are people that there's more involved in the quality of their experience. There's people with strong opinions that haven't tried different devices. They only know their one device, and they're just assuming that a better device is not better. And I also have discussed devices that I haven't used specifically, but I do that from experience on similar devices and from having premium devices and having less than premium devices. So, but all that aside, I did have an idea today that is a much better perspective on what I'm trying to share about these things. And so what it is for a lot of games, the VR version of the game just adds an extra level of immersion, but the gameplay is the same. And so if you're playing a game like that, the visual fidelity is probably one of the more important aspects of it. But that's not the case for every game. And then there's also, there are games that are greatly enhanced by quality audio, almost more than the visual immersion aspects of VR. And so the point I want to make today is one of my favorite racing game is Wreckfest. And no, it's not the most serious simulation game. It's actually it's got very respectable, realistic, and fun physics, but it also has this fun dynamic of being kind of a Crash Derby styled game. There's a lot of good mods for it, so you can actually have some pretty serious racing competition in it if you want to, but altogether it's just a riot of a time. And it's my favorite game, and it's not available in VR. Now, my first racing game in VR to use was Dirt Rally, the original, and I did that on the Oculus Quest. And so I'd play it with a gamepad, and it was cool in VR. It definitely was cool in VR. I wanted to play it in VR. I obviously bought it because I had VR. But the thing is even better than Dirt Rally in VR was Wreckfest on desktop when I got a wheel and pedals. Now, you can use a wheel and pedals with VR as well, but if I had to pick, if racing games were my main thing and I had to pick one or the other, as would just about anybody else, a good wheel and pedal set and shifter and those components are far more important to racing gameplay than VR is. Even though people that have those things and then get VR for racing, a lot of them just can't go back to desktop racing because they enjoy the immersion so much. If they had to choose between playing with a Xbox controller in VR or having their quality controls outside of VR, I'm pretty certain they're all going to want their expensive simulation gear to actually have a real driving experience over having just VR to make a game experience immersive. So fast forward that to the connection here is, that is true for VR, but you can use any VR that works with a PC is going to be able to work for your PC racing games using your any racing controls that you have. So, but my point of this is not to say that any one device is better or another than for racing. In that case, for racing sims and such, the resolution and screen door resolution and God rays and things like that become much more important than the controllers because you're using something else for your controller anyways. So, I mean, it can certainly sway a decision, but my point is I'm going to bring it back to VR chat. So when you're in VR chat, you don't have controllers you can buy for the game that you add VR to. Your VR setup is your controllers as well. Now, technically, you can use desktop controls in VR chat while you're in VR, but if you don't have motion tracked hand controllers, you don't have hands in the game. You're just literally moving around, so you can look around. You get the same immersion element that's added to any other game, but you're not really fully immersed. It's not anywhere near the same as having motion tracked controllers. So I actually put on my trackers for this video because that is my whole point. When I'm talking about the quality of VR experience and getting what you pay for, VR chat comes to mind a lot, because this is a game that, while you can play it in a desktop mode, it was built with VR in mind. It came about because of VR. Desktop mode basically lets people discover it and puts in more people to talk to for the people that are in VR. I mean, it's good in desktop mode too, but and I actually have an additional point for that as well. But anyways, having fingers in the game along with hands is really incredible. It feels good, feels right, and it's not perfect. It's not hand tracking. It's finger position tracking. So they're only going up and down. Like, you do lose the ability to make a legit looking peace sign when you have index controllers. But if somebody gives you a hard time about it, you just flip them off. So because you can, and they can't. They can't flip you off right back unless it's a gesture programmed into their avatar. And so, I mean, it's not really about that, but just, you can do the pinky flex, and they can't, so you just get extra functionality. But in real life, you have hands and fingers that move when you move them. You're not even conscious of whether you're holding a controller or not. You don't have to hold the controller in VR chat. Now, for me, I leave them kind of loose, and so maybe my calibration may slip because of that. I'm not generally too concerned about full-fledged phonetics. Just they work good enough to do the general natural feel of hand gestures while talking. I gesture a lot while talking, and I leave them kind of loose, and I use the wrist straps with it as well so that I can leave it loose. So I can be as confident as I want to with them, and if I go to throw something by actually throwing it and letting go, my wrist strap's going to back me up if I got too carried away, which isn't usually the thing that happens in VR chat. But for Beat Saber, do the same thing. I leave the hands part loose, and I have the wrist straps in case I let go. So that's my power tip for index controllers. For people that complain about them being uncomfortable, you don't have to cut the circulation off to your hands if you just go ahead and use wrist straps also. But the other thing is the trackers. Having full body tracking, and it looks like I'm a little bit through the floor here. Let me float up a little bit. Anyways, having the trackers, especially for like a DJ event and whatnot, the actual dancing, it's incredible. And you just can't, no device offers legit full body tracking other than the Vive trackers that work with the SteamVR base stations. Now, there's a hybrid setup that's available, but that's really only something to consider if you already own a headset and you're trying to add full body tracking after the fact. If you're in the market for a headset, this is strongly something to consider if your budget allows it before you get VR. And so you see the point now on better quality hardware that supports better quality things. I can put my hands behind my back. I mean, in VR chat, if you're talking, if you're playing a game, you may not need to track your hands behind your back to see them yourself, but you stay looking legit for everybody else in the game while you're doing natural things. And so it's good for VR chat to have it looking that way. And if you're dancing, you don't want your hands to disappear and freak out just because they're behind your back. Well, on any kind of inside-out hand tracking setup, that's going to happen. The Oculus products have, they use some predictive motion, and it works out pretty well. Whoops, see there, I just somehow occluded. My tracking currently is kind of glitched out in this environment. I got to troubleshoot it. So, but anyways, why did I distract myself with that? But so with the Quest or Rift S or those things, if you get into a fully immersive dancing, if you get the hybrid setup and everything else, you still are going to run into issues that you may not be aware of, but other people will see it, where depending on how long your hand's behind your back or whatever, you've got blind spots for your tracking. In SteamVR, once your setup is good, it's good. Now, in my case, I've relocated my whole play space, and I've had a little bit of issues. It's kind of a challenging play space to set up, and I've still had some downsides to it that I haven't troubleshooted and found a solution for yet. But in my previous play space, where it was set up perfect, it was a non-issue past that. They're super easy to set up, and then once they're set up, they are set. You don't have to, unless you move something, you don't have to recalibrate anything ever, pretty much. Now, if you have the hybrid setup, you're going to have to recalibrate the controllers with your play space quite often. And anytime you have to reset your play space because it drifts because of an inside-out tracking scheme, you're going to have to recalibrate the space calibrator too. It's not terribly difficult, but it's a hassle. And the same thing with the anytime you're using a Quest with the PC, you have to boot the Quest and tell it to connect to Oculus Link. You have to boot your PC. You have to have your Oculus software installed, possibly even already open to do Link. I can't remember if you have to actually have it open or just installed. But you've got extra steps you got to do there. And then if your play space has drifted, you've got to recalibrate it. And then again, at that point, you have to recalibrate Space Calibrator to have your full body tracking. And that's all not even accounting for the fact that the Quest is very uncomfortable out of the box, almost unusable. At least it was for me. I have a larger head. Maybe other people don't have it quite so extreme, but it's a deal breaker for me. And there's mods, and I've been able to make one tolerable, but not truly comfortable. So when you're in VR chat for a long time, that discomfort adds up and takes a whole lot away from the experience. When I RMA'd an index controller one time, I intended to use the Quest with Link to just be my VR until I got the controller back. I ended up opting to just not mess with VR. I tried it one time and it wasn't worth it. It in the discomfort of the headset made VR chat not even enjoyable, and yet on the index, or just with a comfortable headset in general, if I had an opportunity to enjoy VR chat, there's few things better on short notice, so generally VR chat for me, if I had several hours where I could actually afford to be in and settle in and enjoy a good time, it was my go-to thing to do. If I had a shorter time frame to take a break or do something fun, I'd probably opt for a different game that was quicker to pick up or more guaranteed experience. But okay, so the other part of good quality VR and good quality gaming in general is 3D audio. And for Wreckfest, it's got 3-dimensional audio, and when I'm playing it in desktop mode with the controllers plus using that gaming headset, it feels super immersive. There's not a good quality rearview mirror scheme in Wreckfest, so your best way of knowing someone's behind you is to hear them approaching, and you can with 3D quality audio. So you can add headphones, of course, to a headset, but with the Index, the off-ear headphones are already built in. Like, it sounds, depending on the quality of the game or environment you're in and how it manages its 3D audio, the Index can deliver it in astonishing quality to your ears. And in VR chat, it's got really good 3-dimensional audio now. And it's so good that, my fiance, bringing her in on desktop and getting her just a headset, she was kind of freaked out by the 3D audio. She wasn't prepared for it to be that good. It is that good. So that makes quality audio built into a headset a really nice feature. It's only non-essential because you can add headphones, but headphones, that's another small hassle being added to every time you're using your headset. And that's something else to consider. You're not coming into VR chat for hours on end and never leaving VR. Most likely you've stopped to grab a drink or use the restroom. You will need to take your headset on and off more than once, most likely, for a long set. Having that be the only thing you have to do to jump in and out of VR is like awesome. It's what you would want. That's ideal to sit there and have to have to put your headset back on, fool with whatever made it comfortable, add headphones, try to get them positioned just right, try to adjust to that being comfortable. And then if your play space is drifted or whatever, have to reset it, to have to recalibrate trackers after, if you follow, it quickly adds up to being something that takes a lot away from the quality of your VR experience. And so that's my point. The controllers, the immersion, the extra things that are compromised on cheaper devices, they matter. The Index is, 90% of my enthusiasm for the Index comes from having the features I want in one setup and having them all work flawlessly together regularly. So, I literally, to do this video, I'm not doing any edits or anything. I'm just winging it through. Literally, all I have to do with an Index is boot my PC. I can either click the icon for SteamVR or I can press the button on my headset. And I just let the base stations need a little bit to warm up. I just let them do that while I finish whatever else I'm doing to be ready. Then I jump into VR chat by launching the game from SteamVR. I launch OBS and I hit record after I'm in the world of my choice. It's really that simple. I didn't have to go through any menus to open Oculus Link. I didn't have to unpack anything. I just had my Index hanging by a hook. My play space, I didn't have to question whether it was going to be where it was supposed to be. I wasn't going to use trackers for this video, and at the last second I decided to. All I had to do was turn each one on and strap it on, and then press calibrate in VR, and I have trackers. I didn't have to worry about whether there was an update to SteamVR that broke it. I didn't have to worry about whether it bugs out and I have to relaunch VR chat like I used to with the hybrid setup. It's simply reliable. As long as those are charged, they're going to work. And that collectively, especially if you play this game often, if you really love this game, that's a very valuable features, and it's something that people should consider. Not everybody can jump in to VR with an Index kit. That's understandable. And then if you can't do that, then that's where the hybrid setup later makes full body tracking something strongly to still consider. And that puts you on your path to having an Index option. Or you can still use that hybrid setup with just about any headset, because SteamVR will support any headset that a manufacturer doesn't purposely block from SteamVR support. So it's a good investment to do the hybrid setup, and that's actually your first step towards an Index 2 if you want to go piecemeal. So, it's not exclusive to Valve, but it's not exclusive to Valve because they've chosen to not make it exclusive to Valve. Like, they could put their foot down. They could crack down and not support or purposely break or sabotage the Space Calibrator program that makes the hybrid setup an option. But that's not Valve's MO. If people make it work, for them it's great. It's an added value for SteamVR, and it's adding value for the games and causing people to use SteamVR who might otherwise have stuck with their the Oculus Store, for example, because they have extra features they can use in SteamVR. So it's in Valve's interest for that to work, and it's actually kind of a win for them that an independent developer created the program. So, if the program bugs out, it's not on Valve to make it work. They've never made it official support. So it's it's working for them to be trying to be your hardware store, your game store of choice, instead of stressing out over trying to lock you in so that if you buy a Vive or Index headset, you can only buy your games from Steam. And they want you to choose to buy your games from Steam. And that's the way the rest of the gaming industry works. You do have some competing stores and you have some exclusive games, but you don't have PC gaming where a game is exclusive to hardware until Facebook got their hands on VR, and Facebook has created a device to try to make that happen for Facebook. And that's a first for VR. And they're kind of modeling the way phones work to some degree, and they're trying to do that with this technology. That doesn't mean that the headset's still not a quality enough headset to use for entry-level VR. It just simply means know what you're getting when you get it, and understand that all these compromises that are in the Quest are taken away from the VR experience. And so don't judge VR by your experience on a Quest. If you find yourself uncomfortable, that's a Quest problem. That is not an Index problem. If you regret not being able to do full body tracking because it's expensive, well, that's expensive because you have a Quest. It wouldn't be nearly as expensive if you were only having to consider the cost of the trackers with an Index. And if you kind of like these things and you set them up and you just can't ever get Space Calibrator to work right or anything like that, that is not because VR is not where it's supposed to be. That's because you're trying to take a sidestep to get something that you should have actually bought this other device for. And so, just that's why if you know what you're getting before you get it and you consider these things, if you have a bigger budget, and for VR in general, I would hesitate to tell someone to buy an Index as a starting point. If they aren't going to hurt from spending the money, then I wouldn't hesitate. But if they're having to kind of make a sacrifice or cutting it close, or they're going to be paying interest for who knows how long, or anything where it's not an impossible purchase, but it's more than nothing to spend it, I would hesitate to tell someone to get an Index for general VR. But for VR chat, you can't beat it. And if somebody really wants VR for this game, then it's a guarantee they're going to enjoy VR in this game, especially if they get good VR. And in that case, if they can afford an Index, they will be doing themselves a big favor by starting off with it. So, but again, it's not about competition. It's not about fanboyism. It's about just helping people understand what they're getting. And so the Index is a complete package, and the extra elements are much more important to the experience than the resolution bump that everyone's hyping about the Quest 2 over the Quest 1. So take it this way, the original Rift had 90 hertz refresh rate, as did the Vive. That was kind of the go-to for VR. People struggled to even hit that inside VR chat. The Quest came out and it could only do 72. The Rift S was announced and it only had 80. That was not a deal breaker. The refresh rate was not a deal breaker for anybody. But people that have bought a Vive or an Index, they have the option to do 120 and even 144 hertz. They can even drop to 80 if they want to for some reason, and then of course it defaults to 90. So they have all these range of features, and some people really love that, but that's not what's really making it a game changer for the average game. So you're really getting into people there that just want the absolute best that they can get, period. You're starting to get a little bit away from practical considerations for somebody just wanting VR as a starting point. So now the Quest 2 comes out, and it now features a 90 hertz display. It's not fully implemented, but I guess that's coming around probably pretty quickly. It's probably fair enough to say it's 90 hertz going forward. And you're just getting back to square one as far as what the original Rift had, but you're also, that in itself is not a game changer, and it's already outdone, so that's one of the big supposed advantages. LCD over OLED, you get enhancements that people want with the less screen door effect and higher resolutions, but you also compromise on the color quality. And so now the Quest 2 trades out an OLED display for an LCD, but it's not really giving you anything too dramatically different. So, when the Rift S traded OLED for LCD, that was a major resolution jump between the original Rift and the Rift S. With the Quest and Quest 2, well, okay, it was a major jump, but more importantly, the original Rift, you couldn't read text clearly. Now, super sampling enhanced it quite a bit, but it was still, it was it was too low of a resolution to read clear text in normal size, in a normal context for sure. Like if you were looking at your computer desktop with it on normal settings, without getting abnormally close to it in VR or whatever, you cannot read the text. It did not have the resolution needed. With the With the Rift S, you obviously could because there's a big bump. And with the Quest, you could. The Quest was a substantial increase in resolution over the original Rift. But once you cross that line of being able to read text from there, sure, more resolution is desired. There's nobody to say that, no, I don't want any more. This is all I ever want. Nobody would say that, but it's not a game changer anymore. It's really not. And so with between the Quest and the Quest 2, you're probably losing more in losing the clarity of the colors than you're going to be gaining from that LCD. And that's not even counting the difference in the IPD, to no longer have a full range IPD adjustment. So there's a lot of compromises there, and you don't get much back. And that's why this point is so important, that there's a lot of ways you can play games, but there's certain things that make them dramatically better far more than other things. And so take Wreckfest. It's a desktop game only, but if I switched to, I don't even know if it supports 4K, but if I switched to 4K for it, but was still using an Xbox controller, that was going to be more expensive and be far less fun than getting an actual wheel and pedals was. And same thing with the VR in general. I just don't have the time I thought I might have for playing those. But I have Drift Rally 2.0, or whatever the official name is. And and I also have, of course, Assetto Corsa, and they are amazing in VR. But neither one of those games I would even want with just an Xbox controller. I still played Wreckfest with an Xbox controller just because it was kind of fun, but I wasn't, I had to warm up to it for me. I mean, I'm not a big-time gamer, so for me it took a while before I was really feeling good about the way I would drive actually translating to how I did drive with an Xbox controller. And now I've got a learning curve still with, force feedback wheels versus a real car are not fully the same thing. And so I still have to adjust to that. I'm still terrible at it, but I have a lot more fun with the wheel and pedal set. And so, that again, VR, you come in here to VR chat and you come in with the Reverb G2 and you can look around, you can move your hands, but now you don't have any touch reflecting on it whatsoever. You're going to have to work controls to show a gesture if you want to, or whatever, and you're going to have to use a hybrid setup like anything else to have full body tracking with those downsides. With the Quest, you're going to have a little bit more intuitiveness with the hands, which is very important. That makes it kind of in the game for an entry level, but you're not going to have the built-in ability for hand tracking. You're going to have discomfort, and you're going to have headphones clamped on top of your discomfort to add quality audio. It's a much degraded experience, and those things are actually what makes a big difference in the quality of a VR chat session. And VR chat, not everybody has discovered it yet, but it's one of the best things to discover about VR. Other than being an extra wow factor to a game you can already play, this is a whole new experience. Now, you can come in and play on desktop, but if VR didn't exist, this game wouldn't exist. It's VR that makes it worth taking to this extra level that it's become. So anyways, that's a long-winded approach, but hopefully it really gets the point home that these features that I'm recommending the index over are not the same stats that everybody else compares. For some people, those stats are really important, but there's crowds. There's people that really want to just enjoy a quality experience with their game, and then there's the people that have to feel like they're on the very top of the game. They have to have something that they think makes them better than somebody else, or to get to strut over somebody else. And so a lot of people think that's what the index versus cheaper headsets is, and it's actually not. There could be some of that, but the actual difference in your quality of experience is really the reason why there's anybody, myself included, that's going to be kind of enthusiastic about recommending it over something cheaper. So as a case in point, I still have a 1080p monitor. I have no plans of getting a 4K monitor. No plans. I don't need it. That's, if it weren't for VR, I don't think I even have any reason why my 1080 Ti isn't all I need in a GPU. And so I'm not that guy that wants to be tippity top. I want the best value for the dollar. Like if I'm buying something, I want it to have some future proof, and I want to get a lot of return out of it. I don't want to spend a lot on it. I don't have spending money on stuff is not my hobby. Investing in something that I will enjoy and be content with for a long time, that's kind of a hobby, So for me, the VR investment, what it really means while I'm in college is I can be broke, and as long as I can pay my bills, I don't have to sweat being broke. I'm not going to be bored. I'm not going to be focused on being broke. I'm not going to be wishing I could do something. I have options. And of course, I have my son. VR is not my only life, but if I need some me time, I need a break or need something fun or social and enjoyable, that's what this gives me. And having a quality experience with it makes it that much more rewarding. It was well worth the extra investment up front to make it that much better every single time I use it. And at one point, the math for having an Index with full body tracking and my better gaming PC than I would have had if not for VR chat, the math for that over the course of college comes out to about $20 a week. So, it's a heck of an experience for $20 a week. And it's not going to be a whole lot cheaper with a cheaper headset, but it is going to be a whole lot less of the experience, especially over time. So I went long with this, but I do hope this stayed interesting. I feel like it all stayed relevant. So thank you again for watching. If you like this kind of content, if it's helping you make any kind of decisions, be sure to click like on the video and comment with questions and subscribe. It's all appreciated. And I've already gone too long, and I hate to make this look even longer, but in a related discussion, I was talking to somebody in VR chat that's considering getting a Rift S. They don't have the money to jump into VR with an Index, which is understandable. And they've looked into the Quest and stuff, and they have their concerns. Right now, as far as recommending it in general, it's a tough time to recommend the Rift S because people are going to, unless somebody really kind of knows why they're making that decision, they're going to feel left out when all the hype continues happening for the Quest 2. There's going to be little trivial updates that people with the Quest 2 are going to be excited about, and the Rift S is not getting anything else like that. It's almost guaranteed it's not. It's just going to simply play the VR games that it already plays. And so that's going to be something that a lot of people would struggle with, spending $400 on a headset and feeling like they have an old device. Well, you have an older device, but it's still a very capable device. And so before the Quest 2 came out and kind of clouded that picture a little bit more, the Rift S is the headset I recommended over the Quest as a budget device. So if you are a person that is willing to consider that, the main thing that it has is comfort. The next thing it has is it's ready to go. It's a PC VR device. You're just launching Oculus and you're playing your games. You can, launch an Oculus and then probably, if you're smart, then you're launching Steam VR where your games actually have been purchased. But you can do all of that relatively conveniently because it was built for PC VR. You're not having to mess with any menus or wait for any updates. You're not having to worry about another device connected to the internet. You're not worried about battery life, none of that. So, and it has a better resolution than the original Quest did. It doesn't have as good a resolution as the Quest 2, but it also doesn't rely on compression. You're getting the full experience that your PC can give to it. The Quest 2 still relies on compression too, although it may not need as much compression as the original Quest. It's still going to be, in some respects, compromised. And if you want to stream or make videos, if you're using a Quest with Link, or even a Quest with Virtual Desktop, you are using the streaming functionality of your processor, of your GPU to do that. If you want to stream and game at the same time, you really need a headset that's not using that function, because like right now, while I'm recording this video, I'm using hardware encoding. If I was using a Quest with Link, I would have to use software encoding, which is more CPU intensive, because my Quest with Link would already be using the hardware encoding. And so that's not a problem for everybody, but that is going to be a problem for some people. So if you are somewhat interested in making some content or sharing your VR gaming experiences, that's another thing to keep in mind. So with all of those things considered, as an entry-level headset, as the best out of the box that you can still buy new for a little bit longer, the Rift S is a solid consideration as an entry-level headset for VR chat. If a budget is driving your decision, but you want the best quality you can get for this game, a Rift S is honestly still the most solid headset you can buy for the budget consideration. But again, with all the hype that's going to be coming with the Quest 2, with the Quest 2 having better resolution and everything, that's going to cloud that, and only somebody that really knew what they were doing is going to remain happy with their purchase. Somebody else is going to start to wonder if they made a mistake. If you're playing PC VR, the extra processing power of the Quest 2 pretty much means virtually nothing for you. So that's another hyped feature, but it doesn't bring anything to the PC VR game of consequence. So now, anyways, that's enough. And so thank you for watching, and have a good day. I sure hope this has helped somebody, and we'll catch you on the next one.